How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
And now, a special edition of the Toddcast podcast.
Powered by Citywide Mortgage Services. Providing complete financing and mortgage services for residential and small commercial businesses. Visit them at citywidemortgage.ca.
Now, here's your host, Todd Hancock.
And this week, 9 guests and a best of the Toddcast these last few months. In sports, one rewires your fitness habits. Another is a trusted sports source here in Vancouver. And the last voice commands attention at Vancouver Canucks hockey games. That one may have given it away. In entertainment, one guest helps your online dating game. Another turns late night streaming sessions into a full-on escape. And the last is a face that you've seen on screen in a great series that takes place in Miami, 1999. And you'll hear from this week's musical guests in just a minute. One delivers pop sensibilities with an edge. Another gained prominence in the Canadian rock scene in the early 90s. And the last is loud and raw. He's the frontman of one of Canada's best rock bands of the last 10 years. My name is Todd Hancock. It means a lot that you're here checking us out, or maybe you're back as a repeat offender. And it's because of our excellent sponsors that we're able to keep banging out podcasts, like our title sponsor, Citywide Mortgage Services. If you're looking for a mortgage, these guys are total pros, super knowledgeable, easy to talk to, and work with tons of lenders. My good buddy Dara is one of the owners. He helped me renew my mortgage back in January. And if you remember, it was right around the time that Trump was coming to office, and there was a ton of uncertainty in the market, I guess much like today is. Dara made it smooth, made it simple. I've had good talks with him about mortgages over the years. And the beauty is, Citywide works for you. They don't work for the banks. If it's your first place or you're refinancing, they'll walk you through it all, hold your hand kind of thing, and you can trust that they are in your corner. Save serious money and stress in the long run. Dig into citywidemortgage.ca for more. I fully recommend Dara and his team. Okay, coming up shortly in Stop Me If You've Heard This Before, the Sheepdog singer Ewan Curry talks about whether he limits what he listens to while making an album. It's a super interesting take, which is powered by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley. RV service, repairs, they are ICBC accredited, 9-year sponsor. They've absolutely key, not one break in that time. They're key to why we're able to keep on keeping on. Tamara and the crew are huge. I mean, huge indie supporters. And I love them more than words can say. I mean, at this point, they've been in my corner for so long. They're basically family. You can find them online, kicking around from time to time on Facebook and Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies. Okay, first, let's get to some musical guests in this Best of podcast. And to start you off with Shab. Born in Iran, her story has taken her across the globe. More on that in just a sec. She has a big, big family. We talked a lot about that in the full interview, how she can read people's energies. She's a true testament to resilience, passion. She supports charities through her work, something that COVID actually supported and afforded her that luxury. Now back to traveling the world. Here Shab talks about growing up in Iran and eventually fleeing to Germany at a young age.
I did. I grew up in Tehran the first 8 years of my life. It was like 8.5, 9. I was finished second grade, but I also started school when I was 5.5. I was in first grade. So I was already by seventh grade. I was like 7.5. I was already doing third grade.
Oh, no shit. Wow.
And we went to Turkey when I was 8, and I was in Ankara for a year. So I was waiting for my paperwork to go to Germany. And I was learning how to speak Turkish, and I had a lot of Turkish friends. So because I was so young, I was just picking up languages so quickly. And my mom stayed with me, and then she had to go. Then my brother was with me for a couple months. And yeah, it's been quite a journey to be where I am. So, and then I
was reading your bio this morning, and was that a tough decision to leave? And I mean, you moved to Germany, but you moved in with your sister. It's not like you just left and like, see you later. But was that a hard decision for you to leave your parents and stuff? And
my parents, my father passed during the Persian Revolution, 79, and I was 6 months old. I had just been born. So he died, and my mom was left with all the 13 kids by herself, and I was her baby. So yeah, I was a mama's girl. It was really hard, but four of my brothers and sisters had left like 4 years prior. They went to Germany, so I hadn't seen my siblings in so long, and I had missed them, and I was very close to them. So I was alone. I was just like, I didn't have any play buddies. I had to I had my friends, neighbors and stuff, but it was a tough decision. And I really missed my mom because I was a mommy's girl, and I had to move in with my sister. My paperwork came, then I went to Germany, and I was there for 4 years. But I adapted really nicely. I loved Germany so much. I had the best time of my life because I was an adult. I was taking myself to school with the Straßenbahn. It's like a train that comes like every 2 minutes. Nobody talk like. Everyone is like so polite. They're all dressed like business clothes or school. Nobody bothers you. It's so safe. So I was taking myself from point A to point B. I was super independent. And I learned how to speak fluent German, and I made a lot of friends, and I started tennis, and I really loved it, and I was getting very good at it, and where they wanted to take me to be like compete professionally. So my life changed. And then I came to America when I was 14. And my paperwork finally came. And I remember packing my stuff. I was praying every day to come to US because I wanted to be reunited with my brothers and sisters. And it was like the best day of my life. Finally got my ticket. My sister was sad. She didn't want me to go. She said, it's your choice, but your life will change when you go there. I just want to make sure you're ready for that. And I said, you know what, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to go because I need to be with my mom. I needed to see my mom again, So I went to John F. Kennedy Airport, New York, straight flight from Frankfurt. And so then I get there, and then there's like these two officers that were like 6'7", and I don't know why they sent the tallest people they had. And I was just like, and I just looked at them. I was like, I froze. I only spoke German and Farsi, and they were speaking English to me, and they're like, welcome to America. I don't know what they're saying. And I was just like so scared. They're like, it's okay. We'll take you. I just knew a few words, and I said, okay, thank you. They took me to the immigration. I waited for an hour, and then they handed my green card in my hands. It was the best day of my life. I was just so excited, and they put me back on a plane. It was an hour flight to Baltimore from New York, and my family was waiting there for me, and it just brings back memories.
She goes, because I was so young, I was picking up languages so quickly. Isn't it interesting hearing about people's childhoods, their lifestyle, their upbringing, their challenges? Shab was open and honest in this interview, talking about being grateful for her team and working social media. She lives in Dallas, Texas now, so we touched on that a little bit and what their music scene is like. Christmas movies came up. So did the Jackson 5 and disco. Seeing J-Lo in concert, and you'll find this interesting as well. Here she talks about the grind of touring and how it's harder than you think to be an artist.
We were in the bus, and then we would literally travel overnight and get to the other location and be going straight to the arena to change. I don't see anything. And then we get back in the bus, and then we're in the bus for 3-4 hours, and then I'm stretching my back and it's hurting. It's like because you're sitting, so we get out and go to the station. There's gas stations, so you have to pick like healthy stuff to eat because there's McDonald's and there's this and that. I'm like, oh. So it's constantly making quick choices, and that's helping your body and nourishing it for the next show because you're on the road, and but you have people that are like positive and loving, and my team was everything to me. I mean, thank God my husband, he was there with me too, and it just really helped because I missed the babies, and if he wasn't there, it would have been a little bit, it would have been hard. I mean, if I wasn't married, it's cool, but the fact that I know I'm married and I'm leaving my kids and my husband somewhere, and I'm just like, I miss them,
That's got to be the hardest thing, hey?
It's the hardest thing, but I knew they would be proud of me, and I missed a lot of their school activities and stuff. I was gone for a month and a half. But this year I made up for it. I went to all their field trips, and my son was like, Mommy, you're the best mom. I love you so much. Like, when they tell me these things, it's like, nothing else matters in the world. You know what? Everything else.
Melts your heart right there,
It really does. But that was probably one of the hardest things I did. I have so much respect for artists, so much for any artist that's out there that's making it, that's already made it. This industry is so hard. It's so tough, and it takes a lot out of you. And when you're on the camera, it's almost like the camera is sucking the energy, and it's sucking because you're just performing and you're giving all your energy into the camera. It's like taking that energy. So, and it's a rewarding. I feel so blessed. But it's also like very hard. You have to have a very strong mental capacity, and you have to be strong-willed and just be laser focused and just know why you're doing it, and do it for the right reasons. Don't ever do it for fame. Don't ever do it for money. Don't ever do it because any other reason. I'm so blessed that I don't have to do it for any of those because I'm already famous with my family, and I already, the abundance keeps overflowing, and I'm blessed with that because I'm not doing this to become like, well, we want to make it into a business, but a lot of people don't have the money, and then they become really wealthy because of and I already had all of that. I'm so blessed, and thank you, God. I'm grateful, and whatever comes out of it, it's up to God. I would say, God, you're the driver. I'm just like following your lead. I'm doing what I can in my power to make this happen.
Love that. You have to have a strong mental capacity and have to be strong-willed, no doubt. I think the touring and that grind is something that most of us couldn't even comprehend. As I take you from Shab to Salvador Dream, their singer and bassist, Toby and Russ, jumped on a Zoom. And of course, you'll know them from the early 90s in a couple of rock radio hits. It turns out that Warner Music Canada reissued their debut album, this year. The original came out 30 years ago. So it's cool to talk to them about the inner workings of the band and how they think that grunge was the start of their demise.
Yeah, you want to answer that one, Toby, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I think at that time, because we were not a grunge band, we had elements of grunge, but we weren't that. And so in a way, us riding on the grunge wave at that time was a good thing. But then when Kurt Cobain died, the whole scene changed. And I think that was a big part of why our band sort of got shelved, or people just moved on thinking about other things, and other styles of music became popular at that time.
And which of the Canadian bands do you think that kind of made it through? Like, which were the Canadian bands that you guys at that time were looking up to, going like, these guys are going somewhere? Like Our Lady Peace, of course, you're touring with those guys. You had to know they're making it.
Yeah, you could see it, like visually see it, like at the shows. Like there's lots of people there, at every show, no matter where they played. So, obviously that's a signal that, you're doing well. And
yeah, people are showing up to your shows. That's a good thing. It's a good start.
And that's the true test too, right? So
yeah.
I can't really, at the time, there was I, Mother Earth, I remember.
Yeah.
And I know that there was probably a bunch of other bands, but just in terms of major label bands, I don't know if there was too many. Like I think Canadian labels were cautious of the whole thing anyways. I thought it was a movement and like grunge was a term that they used, but it was kind of more of alternative music. You know, alternative to, say, what they call hair bands, or, you know, that kind of thing, like 80s spandex. And, you know, that was rock at the time, right? Everybody was looking and kind of sounding like that. And then Kurt Cobain came and changed the game. That's how I actually really feel that video hit. And that was it. There was this whole new direction that started to happen. You know, they started to add elements of that kind of stuff, like Black Sabbath, you know, and it was a combination of things. You know, they just kind of fit things together. And you know, it's Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, and Soundgarden, and, you know, and that the
sure.
sort of direction and the sound that everybody was going in. And it wasn't, you know, they didn't wear spandex, and they didn't have their hair all poofy, and they didn't play all these widdly guitar solos and stuff. So,
yeah,
you know, I think things really changed then, and then there was a new direction. And so I was able to look at it and kind of go, yeah, I'm feeling that. I love that. And I want to be part of it. I want to be part of this so-called movement, even though nobody called it a movement, but they did give it a term. Oh, it's grunge, you know, like, but really there was a lot of different areas where you could go, you know, like Soundgarden I don't think was grunge in the sense, like, if you listen to Bad Motorfinger or any of these albums, it's really super tight. It's awesome songs. You know, grunge was more like Mudhoney and, like, you know, bits of Nirvana. And, you know, I could go on forever about talking with bands, because I love that era. And I love, you know, like, we all do. Grunge, you know, the Pixies, they wrote great songs and they sounded awesome. And so, you know, was that grunge? I don't know. I kind of feel like Mudhoney was the one that sounded like grunge.
You couldn't have put it more succinctly. When Kurt Cobain died, the whole scene changed. No doubt, right? Do you remember what it was like when Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit video came out, and how it was earth-shaking, wasn't it? Toby and Russ talked about career highlights, seeing bands like April Wine and Third World. Chet Atkins and Lenny Bro came up. So did Family, the unstoppable Guns N' Roses. And they gave an update on that Salvador Dream documentary that you may have heard about.
Okay, we have the final sort of performance thing that we need to do, which was play in front of an audience. So that's taking some time, because, you know, we have jobs that we're doing, and we need to rehearse quite a bit to get that sound and get the tightness of the band together. Yeah. And then also book the shows. Like, we haven't played a show, obviously, in 30 years. So, you know, what promoter knows us? Where can we go to play? That's the kind of thing that we need to figure out still while we're rehearsing. So we've started the rehearsal process, but we really just need to get a show and a deadline and a date. And then our friend Tino Zoffel, who's been doing the editing and directing for the documentary, will finish the whole thing once we get that last piece. So
that's so exciting, hey? Like,
yeah, it's great, you know, and we've seen a little bit of it so far. So yeah, I'm happy to finish it up.
No doubt. Like, we haven't played a show, obviously, in 30 years. Well, they've certainly played shows since our podcast together. They're back at it, and hopefully that means new music as well. So I want to take you from Salvador Dream to Broken Love singer Justin Benlolo. As mentioned off the top, they are one of the best rock bands from Canada over the last decade. They're from Toronto. Justin quit school, the singer, at 16 years old to pursue music, moved to New York City in 2014, then it was to LA. The grind, it is constant. And it's a really open and honest conversation with, like I said, one of the best in Canada right now. Getting into being influenced by bands like Royal Blood, Highly Suspect, even Michael Jackson. He talks about Zeppelin, Soundgarden, seeing AC/DC in concert, touring with Mammoth WVH, more on that in a little bit. And here Justin talks about the music industry and the hardest part of breaking and being in a band.
Well, that's a tough question to answer. Let's see, like, maybe I think what's tough in general is just the way the landscape has changed, especially with rock music, and just how everything has become more digitized with streaming and all that kind of stuff. And like, you know, I my generation is like we're kind of on the edge of like where we still didn't have like, you know, TikTok and Instagram and Spotify only became a thing when I was like 16 or 17. You know, like we were still you know, downloading music illegally and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm getting at is like I think the content machine really changed a lot when I was growing up, whereas like I have younger siblings, and for them, it's just like they have full TikTok, brain rot, all that kind of stuff. They grew up with that stuff. And it's just the idea of having to become like content creators now is so foreign, I think, to a lot of at least my generation of musicians, because we're like, wait, hold on, like, you know, they used to just tell us to make maybe a YouTube cover every once in a while. Maybe that would be the thing. Now it's like you have to make the music and you have to post all your pictures and you have to make these like dumb reels and TikToks that are like clickbaity and
Oh, and by the way, you need to do that daily as well.
Yeah, and you have to do it consistently because there's an algorithm now that like this, that, and the other. And it's like, man, it's fucking exhausting because like I just want to make music. And
I feel that.
Sometimes it feels impossible to get your music out there without acknowledging that these things are important. And there's only so much like what's the word I'm trying to say here? Like I have a sense of pride. There's only so much pride I can have in like, oh, I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to be the TikTok band or whatever. You know, it only goes so far before you're like, shit, well, maybe this is something you have to utilize these days if you actually want to make it anywhere. And
you know, and the thing about that too, Justin, is like you've only got a certain amount of creativity too, right? Like, so if you're like taking away from the product, like you say, I just want to fucking make music. So you're taking away like, hey boys, let's quickly make a TikTok video, or like, hey, can you quickly say this? And I'm going to piece this. Like now suddenly you're losing sight of what Broken Love's about.
100%. So you kind of nailed it. It's like, I feel like maybe what has changed now, and obviously I can't say because I wasn't around in the music business, you know, in the golden era, some would maybe say, but like you're all encompassing now. You're not only the songwriter, you're also the photographer, you're the video guy, you're the, you know, the art director, you're the social media manager, you're everything, you know, you're literally not, I mean, most of us can kind of produce or engineer nowadays, because if you don't know how to build a demo like on your own anymore, I mean, music is made with computers now. So it's like, if you don't know how to use, you know, Pro Tools or Logic or whatever kind of DAW at home, or get like a half decent setup, like you have to look up all this stuff now if you kind of want to make it. There's less resources that are available, and there's less obviously funding available for rock musicians, especially.
But you guys do all that, like the creative BC, no, maybe not BC because you're obviously not from BC, but you'll do factor grants and shit. Like you'll apply for them at the very least, right?
Apply for them for sure. I mean, it's been tough. I mean, just because we have this weird situation where like I'm Canadian, but I'm signed to an American label, and it just gets really complicated. I'm not going to bore anybody with that. I've just learned to become self-sufficient, which obviously, listen, a lot of artists have to be. But I think that's maybe one of the biggest hurdles you have to get over these days, is you have to sort of be comfortable with doing everything. There used to be, you know, more teams available to you. You used to have a serious marketing team or big PR, you know, external PR. Or, you know,
back when record labels chucked a shit ton of money at bands and stuff, right? Like,
it doesn't really happen anymore. And I was lucky. You know, at one point in my career before all the Broken Love stuff, I was signed to another label, and they did actually give us, you know, a pretty significant chunk of change just for development, which was kind of crazy to think of now, or it's kind of crazy to think of now, because that was probably like, again, right at the turn of like the streaming and all that stuff. Like it wasn't really as popular as it was now. There wasn't Reels. There wasn't, you know, TikTok. It didn't exist then. So I'm not going to say that's the main reason why these things have stopped, but I'm just trying to think of in terms of like revenue, I think they were still getting it from a lot of places, you know, and this label obviously had money. they gave me a chance to develop. They gave me, a budget to go and try to make some demos and try to figure out my sound and get in sessions and all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of unheard of now. It's not surprising when you hear like, oh, okay, so-and-so band that just got signed by this label actually recorded the first record all by themselves. They produced it themselves. They mixed it themselves. And then they turned it in, and then, the label bought it from them, because they didn't put in any money to let them make the record or whatever. You have to kind of show up.
Well, you have to be self-sufficient, ready to go, and okay, now we'll take you on.
You got to be fully thawed, by the time you get to these places now. I feel like a lot of people aren't people aren't taking risk. That's basically what it comes down to. And I understand, listen, this is still a business at the end of the day. It's still called the music business. So
yeah,
I'm not the one that's calling the shots. I'm sure if I had to invest in bands, I'd probably get nervous too, but I think that's kind of what it comes down to. Maybe that's to answer your question on this long-winded rant. There's just all those factors, just being self-sufficient, I think, is probably the toughest thing of it all. And
it's crazy, right? The idea of having to become content creators now is so foreign, he says. I bet, right? How weird is it for bands and artists now? Suddenly you have to do all of these things that don't really have much to do with what you're doing. You're creating art. You have to be a videographer, social media influencer. You got to create graphics for posts and all of that stuff. Sure, bands like Foo Fighters, Nickelback, Metallica, they're not doing it themselves. I doubt that Dave Grohl, Chad Kroeger, James Hetfield are spending much time on Canva. You know what I'm saying? But up and coming bands, absolutely. Broken Love signed with Spine Farm Records back in 2019, released their self-titled debut in 2020. Their second, Black Box, came out in November of 2022, and their new album, The Program, was released in March of this year. Quickly, back to opening up for Mammoth WVH. Listen to Justin talk about that and the biggest show that he's played.
The biggest crowd, I would say, I think we played in front of 7,000 people or 8,000 people. We played an arena show, obviously opening. We played in Minneapolis years ago. It was a radio show. We played with it was 311 Highly Suspect. I think Glorious on that show. We were the first of 3 or 4 on this big arena.
It was 311 though. That's an interesting combo.
Yeah. I think 311 was the headliner at the radio show.
Yeah.
We were on another tour at the time, and it was a one-off we did just on the day off or something. But I think that's probably the biggest show we've done. When we went on tour with Wolfgang Van Halen or Mammoth.
Oh, cool.
And he was playing pretty big venues. It was probably average 1,500, 2,000 people a night, I would say.
Yeah.
What's really cool is how perspective changes as the band goes on, and rooms I used to think were really big have now become really small. And that's a really cool feeling. You walk into Lee's Palace in Toronto, and I used to think that was such a big venue. I was wow, look at all this space. And then when we started playing it on tour, and then coming back a couple of years after, I was holy shit, this is a small venue now.
Love it.
And that's cool, man. That is really cool, because
it's so rad. I remember you guys when you started up the show here at I think it was the Orpheum. Didn't you guys play the Orpheum, or was it the QE or something like that? One of those cool rooms in Vancouver, right? Yeah. But you came out, and the first thing out of your mouth is fucking enjoy this show, because this is the last time we're playing a small venue like this in Vancouver. And I was yeah, buddy, let's go. Yeah. So good.
I was probably shit-faced drunk for the last night of the tour.
The Toddcast podcast is powered by Milano Coffee, bringing you the finest espresso and coffee concepts in the world. Online at milanocoffee.ca.
Too close to you, it's tragic what the mind can I didn't try. Now I'm left to wait and wonder till I get a reason why. I'm impossible love, yet I'm impossible to hate. I'm the in-between of everything, so you can't relate. And why am I so fucking good at burning every bridge I build? Every move I fucking make is filled with guilt. I try to speak, but my words do not suffice. My actions left unnoticed, falling on blind eyes. I can't say I didn't fuck up, but you can't say I didn't try. Now I'm left to wait and wonder until I get a reason. I'm impossible love, yet I'm impossible to hate. I'm the in-between of everything, so you can't relate. I'm impossible love, yet I'm impossible to hate. I'm the in-between of everything, so you can. I try to speak, but my words do not suffice. My actions left unnoticed, falling on blind eyes. I can't say I didn't fuck up, but you can't say I didn't try. Now I'm left to wait and wonder until I get a reason.
And now, listen to this on the Toddcast podcast.
You've no doubt heard the Sheepdogs from time to time on your favorite radio station. They're from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, write catchy as hell songs, and are good guys to boot. They've had good success over the years. 3 Juno Awards in 2012, Rock Album of the Year, Best New Group, and Single of the Year. You'll remember their song Feelin' Good was used in a montage of the women's hockey final at the 2014 Winter Olympics. Pretty cool feeling for the band, I bet. Infamously, the Sheepdogs are the first indie band ever to be featured on the cover of Rolling Stone mag. On the cover of the Rolling Stone, the little Canadian engine that could. Over 20 years as a band, multi-platinum album sales, and when their singer Ewan Curry was a guest, he talked about being born in Australia and getting back there to visit his mom and friends from time to time. He shared the grind of what it's like to be in a touring band. We talked about being indie and what it takes to make it. Binge watching shows came up. So did legalized marijuana. And Ewan talked about whether he limits what he listens to while recording an album to lessen the influence. You know what I mean? Listen to this.
That's an interesting question. I've heard comedians say that they do that with, stand up so they don't, steal any jokes or anything. But I don't know, man. I really believe in borrowing from, being influenced, by music, and I kind of live a life immersed in music. I don't really, I don't think too structured in terms of okay, I'm making a record. I can't listen to, X, Y, and Z right now. Mm-hmm. So, I just kind of try to live my regular life, even though I might be making a record at the time. I might put on a favorite record at home or walking around town, have my earbuds in, listening to something. So nothing too set,
Listen to this on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC-approved repair shop. Visit them on Facebook and Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies. And now, highlighting our next Blue Light Sessions, powered in part by Canadian Club Whiskey. Meet your new cold one. We serve Canadian Club and Ginger ready-to-drink cocktails at all of our live shows. Visit CanadianClub.com today.
so high and it's making up after fight.
Absolutely leading the musical charge here in Vancouver. That's new for Cara Bateman. It's called Strawberry Skies, and you can find that one on her new album. It's called Daddy Issues. And you're only, a few days away now from our next live show together this Friday, June 20th, at the Blue Light Studio in beautiful East Vancouver. The Toddcast Podcast Blue Light Sessions, Volume 39, Cara Bateman and Stevie Y. It's going to play something from Stevie later on in this podcast. Both will get the 45-minute set. I'll interview both bands. You can ask questions as well if you want. It's intimate, it's interactive, and it's only $20 through eventbrite.ca. Search Toddcast, you can't miss it. Eventbrite, B-R-I-T-E, eventbrite.ca. 25 bones if you want to gamble and wait for the door. Doors are at 7 o'clock, shows at 8. I say gamble because we only let 60 people into these shows. It's a pretty small room, so get tickets to make sure you get in. I played you Cloudsick. That was their awesome song called In Between. They're playing a show next month at Redgate on Sunday, July 27, Redgate, with All Hype, Chief State, Cloudsick, and Landmark 20. Just 20 bones for that one. It's 19 plus. Doors are at 8 o'clock. That will be a great show. I just wanted to give them a bit of a shout out. Some great shows happening this summer here in Vancouver. All right, coming up shortly in Stop Me If You've Heard This Before, life coach and yogi Mandy Ross talks about being the god of your reality and controlling your destiny. Wise words. That is powered by our good friends, the Home Dwell Group, longtime buddies. If you're buying a home or you're selling your house, trust Kyle to make the process easy and painless. Use my network to better yours. HomeDwell.ca. HomeDwell.ca for more. First, let's get you back to more guest highlights in this Best of the Toddcast and a few recent sporting guests. I think we can both agree losing weight is hard. Like, I've been trying to lose weight for some time now, about 5 years, maybe more. There's definitely a lack of motivation, I will admit. And sometimes the progress feels slow or even nothing at all. But what you have to remember that even small, consistent changes lead to lasting results, or so says weight loss coach Molly McKennedy. She talked a lot about determination, patience, and persistence, and the exercises that everyone should be doing.
I mean, here's the thing is you should adhere to what excites you, and that's so different for everybody, which when you look at what I do, it's pretty much basic weight training. It's the same stuff people were doing in 1975, 1980. I always looked up to those guys like Arnold and, Corey Everson. She was a pioneer in female bodybuilding. So like the stuff that they were doing, that's kind of what I adhere to. I know it works and I get excited about it. But there's so many opportunities now, to move your body in a different way. We've got all this stuff now. You walk into any gym and there's all kinds of classes. You could do circuit training. You can just do cardio if you want. If I was going to say, kind of a blanket umbrella statement, I would say, you should incorporate in some kind of resistance training as well as, some kind of, cardiovascular. And it doesn't have to be intense and it doesn't have to be every day. But if you're going to do weight training, I say work up to a minimum of 3 days per week, 30 minutes, you can certainly do longer, but I mean, at least shoot for that. And cardio, 2 to 3 times a week, or just moving your body for 30 minutes intentionally every day. I mean, yeah, I think people have a feeling that if you're going to be a worker outer, you have to be intense about it, and you don't. You just have to be intentional and consistent.
Yeah, there's that talk of like, you need to get in 10,000 steps.
Exactly. And that can look like, hey, I parked my car far away at the grocery, and, now I'm doing the hike across the parking lot. And then, by the way, when I get in the grocery store, I'm going to do a full loop of the perimeter before I even start shopping. Like, right. You can do little things like that, to hit those steps.
She says, yeah, you should adhere to what excites you. See, that's the problem. Nothing really truly excites me when it comes to exercising. Like, I love playing road hockey. I don't mind going for walks. Snowboarding used to do it for me, but, I haven't had a good season in that regard for about 10 years, like maybe more. I can't say that is exercise anymore, but Molly is great. A really good follow on social media as well. And we know that exercise should be regular in our lives. It's just tricky to kind of keep at it, isn't it? Think about it. It improves your mental well-being, your overall energy. It strengthens your heart, your immunity. It reduces stress. So as much as it's hard to find a place for it in your life, do your best to fit that stuff in. And once you hit the weight that you want, Molly talks about how to keep it there.
Yeah, totally. So, let's say we've got, I'll just say, you. I'm working with you. We've got you down 20 pounds. You're happy. Life is good. You look great. You're sexy. You like what you see when you look in the mirror. Your pants fit. Everything's good.
I'll have to buy new pants at this point if I'm losing 20 pounds, which isn't a bad thing.
You're out shopping. You're happy. Everybody's happy.
Sure.
So I would say, okay, is creating more exercise in your life a priority? Because we can certainly talk about that and, what an ongoing workout regimen might look like for you. From a food perspective, we're no longer on a calorie deficit unless you are still wanting to lose more weight. But let's say you're happy with where you are, understanding the principles that got you here, so hydrating, feeding your body frequently, getting sleep at night, controlling what you can, so when you're at a restaurant, knowing what to order, all these things that you did during the process of losing weight, like you're still going to use those tools. You don't abandon the tools that got you here. Your calorie level will go up slightly because now, we're not in a weight loss mode. Now, we're really just kind of at a break even, which by the way is where I am. I'm a weight loss coach, but I'm not trying to lose weight over here. I'm happy with where I am. And I think there's something to be said for being able to maintain your weight. I mean, one of the questions I get is, what do you know about being overweight or weight loss? You've never been overweight. Don't you think I know something about managing my weight? I mean, Don't you think I know what it takes? I mean, come on. So that's just one of the things, people will throw at me. And it's like, look, I've done a lot of things in my life. I've tried a lot of things in my life, and I know a lot of things because I've done that. And I've helped a lot of people too. So,
it's so true. You don't abandon the tools that got you there. So basically all of the stuff you did to get the weight down, you got to keep doing that. I get it. It's a big, big challenge. So I'll take you from a weight loss coach to Canucks Army managing editor David Quadrelli. I've known David since he was a BCIT radio arts and entertainment student. Maybe this goes back 4 or 5 years now. And I do remember that David was at the top of his class. He was a go-getter. It didn't surprise me when he co-opted out of the program early to start building his career. At the time, he was already doing the Canucks Conversation podcast, which he still does. He's also the editor-in-chief of Nation HQ. He's a great writer overall. David's a bright light in sports reporting here in Vancouver, and he talked about the most famous person that he's met.
Geez. I mean, other than Jim Rutherford, I'll try not to say a hockey player or...
But I like that too.
It probably would have to be, unfortunately. I think it would have to be. I'll scroll through my contacts.
Okay. Have you met any of the big ones like Sid or like Ovi?
Oh yeah. Yes. Okay. So I mean, I've interviewed, and that was on my bucket list last year, was interviewing Sidney Crosby, and I got to do that. And that was a really, really cool moment for me. Yeah. But yeah, actually, I've never met Ovi, never have crossed paths with him. But when Pittsburgh was in town, I managed to get a word in with Crosby, which is like a bucket list item of mine. So probably him. But again, he doesn't know who I am. So it's not, I wouldn't count that as I met him. I crossed paths with him. I asked him a question, but he wouldn't be able to pick me out of a crowd. But person I actually know, probably Jim Rutherford, just hockey Hall of Famer, everything. Yeah. So I'd probably go with him, Jim Rutherford.
Yeah, no kidding. That was a really cool moment for me. Pretty cool for a local kid to meet one of the best to ever do it in Jim Rutherford. It's very neat to hear David's life as well, getting into him playing baseball as a kid, binging Squid Games 2. Mr. Beast came up. So did the Edmonton Oilers, the JT Miller trade, and which team won that one? Was it the Canucks, the Rangers, the Penguins? We talked about seeing the Killers in concert, growing up to classic rock and jazz around the house. Pattinson's Batman came up, worst jobs that he's had, and can he nail it down to one career highlight?
Oh, I mean, other than interviewing Sidney Crosby,
yeah, it's got to be up there.
Yeah, it is up there. Yeah, career highlight. I mean, it's so interesting because, like, what would I put on my highlight reel? Like, I would put the Botchford Project night that I got when I was 19, which was my first time in the Rogers Arena press box. That was a night that, like, I was still a BCIT student at the time. It was a night that got me a lot of mentorship from a lot of different people, and it really, really helped me to kind of just kickstart my career. So I'd probably say that, like, that's probably my career highlight because, again, I never got to meet Jason Botchford, but I was really heavily influenced by his work. Like, he was the reason that I even thought of writing about the Canucks and why I thought it would be a cool career to have. So I'd say that probably the Botchford Project night, because, again, I got to meet his widow, Kat, and talk to her quite a bit, still keep in touch with her. So I'd say that. Yeah, I'd say that.
And he absolutely nails it. It was a night that got me a lot of mentorship from a lot of different people. You never know when something will be life-changing. Like, make the most of the moments. And clearly, David did that night. And from Canucks Army managing editor to the anthem singer for the Vancouver Canucks, Elizabeth Irving. Now, keep in mind, she's a singer way beyond national anthems.
I mean, I didn't start in anthem singing, right? And I think that obviously people just see me sing the anthem, so that's all they know me for, which that's completely fair and valid. If that's all they see, then that's all they know, right? But
yeah,
I grew up in musical theater, so I have a background in musical theater. I was in chamber choirs. I was in jazz choirs. So I have this very broad genre of voice that I can cover and music that I can cover that people have no idea. I remember I sang at Christmas.
That blew me away. Seeing that, I was like, okay. Yeah,
that's awesome. See, I that's okay. If you have that reaction, that's a good reaction to have. It would be the reaction of, oh, maybe she should stick to anthem singing that I would be concerned about. But I sang at Christmas. They asked me to do some Christmas tunes during intermission, and I sang them with a pianist, and everybody's reaction was, holy crap, like, you can sing other than the anthems? That's crazy. So that was kind of fun to share my other musical side with Canucks fans. So that was pretty cool.
No doubt. She goes, I have this very broad genre of voice that I can cover 100%. If you follow Elizabeth on social media, you know exactly what she's talking about. A powerhouse, to say the very least. Amazing videos, outstanding performances, and it's super cool to get into other aspects of her life as well, like admiring Lady Gaga, Adele, Ella Fitzgerald, Taylor Swift. Disney came up, so did binging Grey's Anatomy and true crime docs, the booing of the U.S. national anthem, Trump's tariffs, seeing Backstreet Boys in concert. She shared a near-death driving story and talked about the first time that she performed live theater.
So I joined into a musical theater school at maybe, I think I was 7. So I did a musical called Grease Junior. So it's the movie Grease, but the junior version.
Okay.
And that was really cool. I was kind of just an ensemble role. But then when I was, I think, 8 or 9, I got a lead role in a show called Dear Edwina. And that was the first time that actually anybody, even my parents, were able to see me on a stage and actually envision what my future in entertainment and music could look like. I think that I kind of just overtook this role and really shone on that stage, and everyone was like, okay, she clearly has the passion for it. Now she's actually having the ability to do it. Like, let's do this. So I think my parents both agreed that that was the first moment that they said, okay, we need to push for this a little bit more. Like, she's showing us what she wants and we need to listen to her.
That's awesome. Is that a path that you would go down? Like the actual Grease? Have you seen that, by the way? They played, I think, at the QE Theater.
Yeah, actually, I watched it in Toronto.
It's so good. Like, it was so good.
It's a good show. Well, musical theater is just so good.
Yeah. So is that like something that you would go down? Like, do you apply for those jobs and like?
Yeah, I mean, I did some professional theater with, I guess, the Broadway of Vancouver, which is the Vancouver Arts Club. So I did some shows with them when I was younger, and I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I love theater. I love the people that are in it, but it kind of got to a point where I was like, I kind of need to choose. They're very time consuming with rehearsals and shows. I mean, we were doing 8 shows a week for over 74 shows. So that's a very big time commitment.
Wow.
And I ultimately just decided, I love it. I just don't have that, I guess, drive to pursue musical theater specifically anymore. And I left my last show feeling really good and proud about where I was leaving musical theater. And I think that I'm happy with that. If an opportunity came up, I would by all means definitely look into it. But just at this time, I'm not actively seeking out opportunities.
Red Truck Beer, delivered fresh, the official beer of the Toddcast podcast.
And now, stop me if you've heard this before on the Toddcast podcast.
You've heard life coach, yogi, and Pave Your Paradise podcast host Mandy Ross as a guest a couple of times. We go back a good 12, maybe 15 years. She was Miss World Canada in 2012 and co-hosted a couple Seafox afternoon shows with me during her reign. Mandy's a go-getter. I love it. A hustler, works hard for her brand and other people's businesses as well. She went to Humber for broadcast, print, and digital media in journalism, and she has a great story to tell, always positive and uplifting on social media. And stop me if you've heard this before. The last time that Mandy was a guest, she dropped this gold nugget, and how you're the god of your reality and how you control your own destiny.
I really do believe, and we don't have to get into like a huge discussion around this, but I really do believe that you are, quote unquote, the god of your reality in the sense that you create your dream or the opposite of that in your lifetime. So it's not a matter of just ingesting yourself with lots of positivity, because there is such a thing, I think, as the false positivity, where you're just like constantly pretending that you're happy, but like you really got to feel it, right? You got to feel happy with yourself first and foremost. And you have to be on literally what I am on now, which is like a religious, no pun intended, positive mental diet. And it's not because my life is perfect. I like to say that affirmation, everything in my life is perfect, because I err towards the side of optimism. And I do believe when you say things out loud, when you affirm to yourself things, they do show up in your reality. There's more of a chance that things are going to work in your favor that way. But I think it's more so being conscious of the thoughts that are going on constantly. Like we have over 60,000 thoughts a day. Over 60,000 thoughts a day. That's over 60,000 opportunities to plant positive seeds or negative seeds, and they all manifest into something, right? Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between a positive or negative thought. It's not sitting there as a filter going, oh, this person thought something negative, we're not gonna make that happen for them. And I think that if people were more aware of the mind chatter that's constantly going on in their heads, they would realize that the more that they feed themselves with their thoughts, positivity inside, their whole world will start to reflect that which is going on in your head.
Stop Me If You've Heard This Before on the Toddcast podcast is powered by the Home Dwell Group. Buying a house? Selling your home? Contact Kyle at homedwell.ca today.
Tell you it was over. I just wasn't ready to let it go. You told me time and time again there's nothing here, so don't begin to fantasize and dry my tears with all your lies. I gotta let it go. Myself that everything was fine. You'd kiss me, and I would show one day you'd be mine. You'd say one thing and do another. I can't believe you met my mother. Then you turned around and buried me when I was still breathing. But somehow believe it. You always find the right thing to say. Every time that I try to walk away, you were my sun and I couldn't fight gravity. But you'd hold me and I convinced myself that everything was fine. You'd kiss me and I was sure one day you'd be mine. You'd say one thing and do another. I can't believe you met my mother. Then you turned around and buried me when I was still breathing, gasping for air. Somehow believing that you'd come back and forgive me for bleeding. These open wounds you made have me bleeding. Hurt me or heal me. I just wanna feel me again. After everything I lost in October, lost in October.
Nice. Can't wait for that to be at the Blue Light Studio. There is Stevie Wise and a song called October. She recorded that one at the Wise Hall in East Vancouver last year. So if you come out to our next live show, Stevie will be opening up the night. Super excited to see what she has up her sleeve. If you remember a band called So Romeo, Stevie was part of that band. They're on a hiatus right now, so she's banging out some solo stuff at the moment. So this Friday, Cara Bateman, Stevie Wise, Blue Light Studio. Tickets again through eventbrite.ca, eventbrite.ca. Hope to see you then. You heard a band called Chief State, and that was their song called Drown. And I mentioned this show earlier on when we played Cloud Sick. Next month, Redgate on Sunday, July 27, all hype, Chief State, Cloud Sick, Landmark 20, just $20, 19 plus for that one. Believe me, this show will kick your ass. Going to make this summer all about live shows, so if you're going to check that one out, maybe I'll see you there. Okay, so let's get to our final guests of this Best of Toddcast and this week's entertainment and lifestyle guests. And I wanted to start you off with a matchmaker and dating coach named Blaine Anderson. Now, here's a super interesting conversation with an elite in her field. And if you're like me and lucky to not have to date in the 2020s, our conversation will be an eye-opener as well. Finding the right person, it's challenging, to say the least. Finding authenticity, values that you live by, open-mindedness, emotional intelligence and connection, and of course, social media alone, it's a game changer.
So much, like irreversibly changed the way we date. It's made dating a global economy, essentially, rather than just locals. You used to just have access to the people in your immediate vicinity or town. Maybe if you traveled, you could meet other people. And now you can literally meet somebody as far away as possible and, in theory, start a relationship with them, which I think, I don't always think more options in anything in life makes things easier. And I think we've definitely seen that with social media and dating apps.
That's interesting, right? Blaine goes, it's made dating a global economy, essentially, rather than just local. I mean, that's true to a certain degree, but it's not like you're going to date somebody who lives across the world, right? There still needs to be some sort of proximity, I think. Don't get me wrong, I think that dating at any point in our timeline has been hard. You certainly can't rush things. You have to genuinely like the person for it to work. And like we do with all of our guests, we went further than what Blaine is known for. She talked about being in the friend zone, first dates. We talked about how she worked in the travel industry. The Beatles, Steely Dan, and Bob Marley came up. She told a near-death story from traveling in Argentina. She shared her love of author Rebecca Yarros and a couple of career highlights as well.
Oh, wow. I feel like I have a lot of career highlights. Can I give you two? I feel like every time I get an email from a client being like, I got married or I just got engaged, the love of my life, and it is thanks to your class, it's because you helped me make a dating app profile that would attract her, because you gave me the courage to approach her. That is like every single time a career highlight. That's why I do what I do, and it's what makes me so happy. Sure. And then I would say one of my other career highlights was I was on Shark Tank. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a show in the US.
Yeah.
And that was really like anxiety inducing at the time and challenging, and took a lot of preparation, but ultimately was really fun, and definitely something that I'm glad I had the opportunity to do.
Yeah. Like, what was that like? Shark Tank is kind of ruthless, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it was intense. It's exactly what you see on TV. Like, you don't talk to the sharks before or after. Like, you're up on this stage, there's like nobody, like everything is blacked out on the sides, but there's a ton of like so many camera people there, sound people, all these people, and you're on this giant stage by yourself, lights shining on you, cameras all around, and then the sharks are just sitting in front of you. So it's definitely anxiety inducing.
How many times did you practice that to yourself in the mirror? Like,
oh my God. I mean, a bazillion, like your opening intro, because you walk out and you make your pitch so many times. But I was really happy with how it went. I did fumble some of my numbers, like about my business, which is just like when you're up there, and it's so funny because afterwards people, you like see the comments, they're like, how could she not know this stuff? And it's like, you're on the spot, and it's like, so like I said, anxiety inducing.
The pressure of that is insane.
Yeah. So your brain is like, at least my brain was like short circuiting, and I'm not a numbers person. Like I love my business and like it's a really good business, but like that's not why I do what I do. I do it, like, as I mentioned, because I love helping people and I love working with guys. So it's not like I'm sitting here every day, like looking at the bank account, like calculating like what I made. So it's like, yeah, I prepared those numbers in advance, but I truly wasn't even thinking about them. So when I went up there, it was challenging.
I couldn't even imagine. It was really, really sick, anxiety inducing at the time. I bet. Could you even imagine pitching something on Shark Tank? Those people are ruthless. So I'll take you from a matchmaker, dating coach, to a well-known cosplay streamer named Danielle DeNicola. Straight up, streaming is huge. I think we can both agree on that. It's a legitimate job at this point, and something that we teach at the Radio Arts and Entertainment program at BCIT. Gaming, performance art, fandom, costumes, tons of interaction, big money, potentially, through sponsorships, donations, merch sales. Danielle has been streaming for about 6 years now and talked about the hardest thing about it.
For streaming, definitely the consistency of it. And for streaming, the ability to stream as often as possible, as long as possible, is really important. And the consistency of doing it multiple times. I used to do 3 times a week. Now I do 2 after moving. It's just been a lot to transition, but missing like a week to go on a trip or a weekend to do a convention or something is a huge hit, actually. So it takes a long time to recover from that, I would say.
It's crazy. So like, so you're strategic. Like when you go and do like a Comic-Con or wherever you end up going, like you're strategic about what you do then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Like that's stuff that you would think like nobody, just kind of seeing you on social media and stuff, like nobody would ever think that. They would think, oh yeah, she hit the LA Comic-Con and had a good time or whatever. But like you literally take a hit not being on streaming.
Mm-hmm.
That one surprised me. The ability to stream as often as possible, as long as possible, is really important. Like I said, if you go down this path, it's a legit job, but you really do have to put in the time. So how did Danielle get her start? Of course, it was a friend, gave her a nudge. Hey, get out of your comfort zone. Come to a Comic-Con kind of thing, right? And we went way beyond streaming. She talked about the music in her life, AC/DC, GNR, Kenny Chesney, seeing Van's Warped Tour. She talked about Teen Titans, traveling to London. Aliens came up. So did binging Silo, Spider-Man No Way Home. And what is her career highlight?
With a lot, it's hard for me because it is such a marathon of like content, this and that, so many different things that it is hard to pin down like one moment. But I have maybe a few. I would say I got to work with Intel, the like computer technology company, to like create an original character and build the costume and then wear the costume at a couple of PAX events to like promote their new computer.
Is that them reaching out to you, or how did that happen? That's crazy.
I know. It was a liaison company, like a marketing company that I had worked with before, that was working with Intel, and they wanted a cosplayer. And since they had worked with me before, they recommended me, which was crazy. But as like a lifelong gamer nerd, then that was like the coolest thing ever, where I was like, I can't believe I'm like doing this for Intel. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. So that would probably be a big one, I would say.
Yeah, I get that. It's hard for me because it's such a marathon of like content. It's this and that. I love that. Working with Intel too, by the way, massive. And to be asked Super, super cool. Now, let me take you from a cosplay streamer to actress Raquel Justice. You'll probably best know her for her role as Sofia Rivera in Dexter Original Sin, Deborah's best friend, Dexter's love interest. We'll get more on that in just a minute. But she's been doing this since 2016, starring as young Maddie in the series Recovery Road. She was Kira in Disney Channel's Andy Mack. You've seen her in Nikki, Ricky, Dickie, and Dawn, One Day at a Time, Blackish, Raven's Home, Quantum Leap, and as you would expect, early on, she was influenced heavily by Disney.
Yeah, God, good question. I feel like every kid says the Disney channels, the Nickelodeons, and every girl, I can promise you every entertainer woman who looks like me, who grew up like me, we all loved Zendaya. Like Zendaya, she was tall, I'm tall, and she was tall and she was unapologetic about it. And her role in Shake It Up, her character's name is Raquel. That's my name. So I was like, oh, she's speaking to me. We're basically best friends. Like I have to do what she does. Like she inspired me so much. And just like her journey, her like career path inspired me so much. I also have always been into like horror and thrillers since I could remember. I used to make all my cousins sit in a circle and like practice like trying to connect to like our great grandmother, like just the weirdest stuff. So I always watch like The Conjurings and like the
Ouija board shit too. Like, would you go that far? Or?
My parents never let me buy one of those because they don't play like that, but I did make one with my friends, which I don't think was real. I don't think it actually worked. I think they were moving it, but yes, like those type of those things. And I always made my cousins act in my own movies, but it was all horror movies. And I have a beautiful home in San Diego, so it really lent itself to the horror because there was a lot of dark corners. It was like Spanish themed, a lot of brick, a lot of statues. And so if I go on my phone, like I have to go to like on my iPhone, like 3 or 2 or whatever the first iPhones were, I could find like my iMovies and it's just like a bunch of videos of like my cousins with like ketchup as blood. And like, I took a lot of inspiration, not necessarily from the things I watched, but from the books I read, which was interesting.
Love that. She was tall. She was unapologetic about it. I think you would find that with most girls who grew up around that time, influenced by Zendaya. Being an actor or an actress can be hard work, of course. Nah, you didn't get the role. Nope, sorry. Even when you think you nailed an audition, they decide on somebody else. Don't even get me started on the paychecks. Not stable much. Of course, once you start landing roles, different story, but at the start, it is a grind. Raquel was open and forthcoming in this interview, talked about all sorts of things, like how her dad is Major League Baseball legend David Justice, what it was like being homeschooled, her love of fantasy and horror. She talked about stories of her time in Spain. Superheroes came up. So did a near-death bridge jumping story. I think this was the first time her parents have heard that one. And back to Dexter Original Sin. How did she land the role of Sophia?
Well, this one was actually pretty quick. I'm a student at LMU, so I'm a senior right now, but I had learned about the role. I learned about the show basically through a class because a classmate of mine had announced that she had auditioned to play Deb. And I was like, like everybody's reaction, everybody was like, oh my God, they're making another Dexter. Oh my God. And it was so, like unanimous, like among the whole entire classroom that everyone knew the gravity of like the show and like what that means. And I actually didn't know. I was like, whoa, wait, that's pretty cool. And I hadn't reached out to my manager, my agent yet, because I didn't know what they were looking for. Like the girl who got called for Deb, she didn't look like me. So I was like, oh, I don't know if they even have a role for me. And then a week later, I got the audition. I did the audition. It was a self-tape. And then about a week and a half later, I was actually going to a premiere for my my movie that came out this past year. And I had learned that I was going to be doing an in-person audition. So they asked for like a director's callback. And I was like, oh my God, like I haven't been to an in-person audition in a while because with COVID, everything's online now. So I was just really excited. I was like, I can finally sit in the room. Like I could see the other actors and meet whoever I'm talking to, and I can show them my personality. And I was really excited. And I went in and immediately, I think upon being in the room and delivering the lines as Sophia and seeing the reactions, there was a really good feeling in my chest. It was like, I had a really good feeling about it, but you get good feelings in the industry and then you hear no and then you cry yourself to sleep. So I was like, I can't get my hopes up.
97% of the time, like
Exactly. Like it's always like that one yes out of the 1,000 no's that you get. But I knew that I was really happy to have met the people at the very least. And I actually got the call that I was pinned, I think a day or two later. So it was super, super fast. I knew they were going to start filming in June. And I got the role in May, I think. Like mid-May, which is like a quick turnaround. So I knew I would have to find out soon enough. And then I found out and it still didn't feel real. And even filming it didn't feel real. Like even being announced on like the magazines and posting it didn't feel real until the show aired and people responded to it and responded to it well and found my accounts and like found my TikTok. And I was like, wait, this isn't just like my friends anymore. Like I was like kind of scared. And that's when it felt real. I was like, wait, okay. I'm on Dexter. Like even filming it, I was like, this is just really fun. This is just my
crazy.
work.
And like, how long did it take for you to film all of your stuff for the role? Like every day, or what's that like?
I was fortunate enough because I don't know if I would say fortunate enough, but I was still a student. So that's why I'm saying I was fortunate enough because I want to finish college and I'm glad that I didn't have to leave. I kind of filmed a lot of the bulk of my scenes in summer. So there were some days or some weeks where I'd work like 4 days in the week, like 15-hour days. And I'd get like a bunch of stuff out and then I would be on hold for like 2 weeks and I'd get called back in for like another week full of filming and then on hold again. So that by the time school started, I had maybe 3 filming days a month that were just really long filming days, but the whole process took about like 6 months, 7 months. And I got the bulk of my stuff done in like June, July, August, early September, so that when October came, November, I was pretty much done.
The Toddcast Podcast. Find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and at toddhancock.ca.
I've been wasting so much time. I've been going out of my mind. All my life I've been searching for a heart like yours, warm and open. All my life I've been searching for you, for you, for you, for you. I'm breathless. Lead me down the dark. You know we got the spark. Temptation fills the air. I'll be your love affair. We could walk this back if you want to. Pretend we never met. Our kiss haunting you. Leaving is your biggest regret. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Let the wildness take you home. There's no need to have control. The places that we hide, but never a disguise. to life. I've waited all my life for you to arrive. Breathe, 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 breathe,
Boy, the ticking clock adds an element to that song, right? That's new music for Dabble Doom featuring M. Seals. It's called Exhalalatio. And if you're going like, why do I recognize that voice? Remember Little Crow, Winter Youth? It's that Emily. Great to see her back on the scene, although she doesn't live in Vancouver anymore. I believe she said Edmonton in our texting back and forth a little while back. But that also means that there might be a chance to get Em to come back to Vancouver and do a Blue Light Sessions. I brought that up and she was like, yes. If I can make it, yes. Which would be very cool. She has one of the best voices all time and super, super nice, which is an added bonus. So I think this is a good spot to wrap things up. Episode 367, a best of the Toddcast. Of course, a big thanks to this week's guests as well. Another spotlight on their lives, on their careers. I really appreciate everybody who takes the time to jump on this little podcast that could. Once again, my name is Todd Hancock. Thank you so much for being there, for listening. If you like what you heard, please do tell your friends about us. It's a huge way of how we grow. We see it all the time on social media, so thank you so much for that. We are part of the Realm.fm network, Realm.fm. Super cool indie, fiction, nonfiction. It's like I think there's hundreds of podcasts on that site. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts. Check out all of our videos at our YouTube channel. Comment and rate the podcast. It helps out big time. Search it out through what else? Toddcast podcast. Huge thanks to all of our stellar sponsors. Find all sponsor websites at toddhancock.ca. If you would like to sponsor the podcast, you can for as little as $10 a day. Contact info is at the homepage. And if you help us find a sponsor, as usual, we will give you a commission. It's your move, Joe Rogan. All right, till next time, don't be an asshole. Nobody wants to be around that. Have fun, play hard, and most of all, believe in yourself.
You've been listening to the Toddcast podcast, powered by Citywide Mortgage Services, dedicated to helping you find the best mortgage rates. Available 7 days a week at citywidemortgage.ca.
Can you actually change your personality if you want to? How does peer pressure work, and why is it so powerful? Should you ever really trust your gut when you make a big decision? These are just a few of the topics we've recently covered on my podcast, Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and each episode of Something You Should Know covers multiple topics that are likely relevant to you. You'll discover things you can use in your life today, right now, like how to have a great conversation, how to be more courageous, the anatomy of the perfect apology, and much, much more. To date, there are over 1,000 episodes of Something You Should Know, and we've gotten over 4,000 mostly 5-star reviews. I invite you to check out Something You Should Know. Look for the bright yellow light bulb on the blue background. Something You Should Know, wherever you listen to podcasts.
American history is full of infamous tales that continue to captivate audiences decades or even hundreds of years after they happened. On the Infamous America podcast, you'll hear the true stories of the Salem witch trials and the escape attempts from Alcatraz, of bank robbers like John Dillinger and Pretty Boy Floyd, of killers like Lizzie Borden and Charles Starkweather, of mysteries like the Black Dahlia and D.B. Cooper, and of events that inspired movies like Goodfellas, Killers of the Flower Moon, Zodiac, 8 Men Out, and many more. I'm Chris Wimmer. Join me as we crisscross the country from the Miami drug wars and Dixie Mafia in the South, to mobsters in Chicago and New York, to arsonists, kidnappers, and killers in California, to unsolved mysteries in the heartland and in remote corners of Alaska. Every episode features narrative writing and cinematic music, and there are hundreds of episodes available to binge. Find Infamous America wherever you get your podcasts. The Old West is an iconic period of American history and full of legendary figures whose names still resonate today, like Jesse James, Billy the Kid, and Butch and Sundance, Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, and Geronimo, Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, and Bass Reeves, Buffalo Bill Cody, Wild Bill Hickok, the Texas Rangers, and many more. Hear all their stories on the Legends of the Old West podcast. We'll take you to Tombstone, Deadwood, and Dodge City, to the plains, mountains, and deserts for battles between the U.S. Army and Native American warriors, to dark corners for the disaster of the Donner Party, and shining summits for achievements like the Transcontinental Railroad. We'll go back to the earliest days of explorers and mountain men, and head up through notorious Pinkerton agents and gunmen like Tom Horn. Every episode features narrative writing and cinematic music, and there are hundreds of episodes available to binge. I'm Chris Wimmer. Find Legends of the Old West wherever you're listening now.